Hey, welcome to Gridiron Gurus Week 9. It's the first round of the playoffs for just about everybody in the state with the exception of the Pine Tree Conference Class A. We'll get to them a little later, but Bill, let's start with the Pine Tree Conference Class B in a game number 6 Waterville at number 3 Gardner.
Sure, and the Tigers have really had their way with the Purple Panthers over the last few years. They're looking for their 9th straight win over them. So, players and coaches this week said they really like this matchup. They like the way that they can match up with them offensively and defensively. And, of course, Gardner comes in a little humbled last week with a tough loss to Levitt, looking to get back on track. Alonzo Connor had his typical game with more than 100 yards and a touchdown, but he did somewhat struggle, so they're going to hope to get him going. And, of course, in the regular seeding meeting with these two teams, Waterville did shut Connor down a little bit, but as Frank Knight said, we were not able to contain Dennis Meehan in the passing game. So it'll be interesting to see, if they're going to be able to do the same thing and maybe tighten up defensively against the pass. And, of course, for Waterville, suffered a pretty big blow this week, is going to be playing without Racine Wood, who Frank said is one of their fastest backs in the backfield, so that's going to be a big adjustment for Waterville.
Another game is number 7 Mount Desert Island at number 2 Mount Blue. Mount Blue beat MDI 50-26 in the regular season. It was a game where Mount Blue kind of started out a little slowly. MDI with their power running game took an early 20-6 lead, but then Mount Blue did what they do. They scored quickly, they scored often, and they pulled away in the second half. The big thing for Mount Blue this time is just not let MDI get that ground game going with Elias Byrne and Jason Burke. The Trojans will really like to just grind out drives. They're not going to score quickly on you, but they'll go 70 yards in about 8 or 9 minutes, get 7 points, and all of a sudden the game is just shorter. So if the Cougars can score like they did against Waterville, where they scored in the third quarter 4 touchdowns on 4 offensive plays, then they should handle this game pretty easily.
Sure. Then shifting gears a little bit here to the Campbell Conference Western C. We have a few playoff games this weekend. We'll start with Maranacook is going to be hosting Freeport. Freeport, in its 3rd season as varsity football, is making its first ever playoff appearance. It'll be interesting to see what the Falcons can bring here to the table. The Black Bears come in featuring one of the top defenses in the conference, allowing just under 7 points a game. That's second only to Yarmouth in the conference. So, Maranacook, strong offense, has a powerful running game led by Luke Emery. He's rushed for more than 1,000 yards. They like to give the ball to Jesse Evans as well. He's piled up some yards. So, Maranacook is well balanced. Caleb Castongwe has thrown the ball well this year. So, Freeport's going to have his hands full in this one.
Right. In the 5 versus 4 game on Saturday, we have number 5 Winslow going to number 4 Lisbon. This is Winslow's first year in the Campbell Conference. They finished 6-2, not too bad for a team that had struggled in its last few years in Class B. A tough loss at Poland in the season finale probably kept the Black Raiders from getting a home game in this round. So they get to go to a very tough Lisbon team. Both teams finished the season 2-2 in the second half, both with tough losses to Trape. So it'd be interesting to see how a younger Winslow team handles Lisbon, who is traditionally one of the better teams in this league.
Sure, and staying in the conference, Oak Hill, faces perhaps the toughest challenge of any team in the conference, going up against defending Class C state champion Yarmouth. This is going to be a tough challenge. Oak Hill lost by more than 40 points to Yarmouth in the regular season. They come in. Cody Depew has had a nice season, has rushed for more than 1,000 yards, but playing on the turf in Yarmouth, tough challenge for them.
Right. In the Little 10 Conference, there's a couple games featuring Central Maine teams. Maine Central's is number 7 seed. They'll be going to number 2 Orono, which features the best running back in the LTC in Dominic Maurer, who ran for over 1,200 yards and 18 touchdowns. And he's not the only weapon that the Red Riots have. They have his younger brothers, Cameron and Christian Maurer. All 3 can run the ball hard. When these teams played in Week 1, the 3 Maurer brothers combined for 5 touchdowns against MCI. So MCI's really got their hands full. One thing MCI will have back is receiver Zach Valenti, who missed half the season after a bad car accident. So it'll be interesting to see if the Huskies can get the passing game going against the Riots this time. The other LTC game this week is on Saturday. It features number 4 Mount View against number 5 Foxcroft. Now, Mount View is 6-2. It's not only their first winning season, it's the first time they've ever reached the playoffs. So they get a tough Foxcroft team, traditionally one of the better teams in that league. Interestingly enough, they haven't played the Ponies since 2007, which was Mount View's first season of varsity football.
Sure. Now, the playoffs haven't started, as you mentioned earlier, in the PTCA, but we have a couple games that sort of look like playoff matchups this week.
Yeah, well, the Skowhegan-Bangor game up in Bangor on Friday night is basically, it's the wild card game to get into the PTC playoffs. Bangor is 6-2. Skowhegan is 5-3. The winner is in. The loser is not. It's as simple as that. There's no more worry about coin flips and tiebreakers for these two teams. The winner's going into the playoffs. The loser's going home. For Skowhegan, this is a heck of a turnaround season. They were 1-7 last year. To be 5-3 this year with a chance to go to the playoffs with a win at Bangor, Coach Mike Marzer said they're just excited to have this opportunity. Bangor coach Mark Hackett said, looking at Skowhegan on film, and he sees a team that's as good a running team as any team in the conference, as fast as any team in the conference, particularly Adam Dusty, who's just been racking up the yardage in the second half of the season for the Indians.
Sure. And Lawrence, number 1 seed, clinched it all up.
Lawrence clinched it all up. Never going to be number 1. They're playing a Messalonskee team that knows it's in. It's just a matter of how the Bangor Skowhegan game shakes out and how Brunswick shakes out with Mount Ararat to see where the Eagles will be playing in the first round of the playoffs.
Plenty of interesting games indeed.
Tons of good games this weekend. We hope you enjoy whichever one you get out to, and we'll see you next week when we're talking about playoffs throughout the state here on Gridiron Gurus.